In today's presentation, we'll be going over Imaps and DNS as it relates to both of our Windows and our Ubuntu servers. For Imaps, we'll be configuring that with Dovecot, and for the DNS protocol, we'll be using IIS for Windows and Bind application, which is on our Ubuntu server. Configuring Imaps with Dovecot is a pretty easy task that could have been handled when installing POP3 as well for the last presentation. In order to do this, you would need to run the sudo command to install the Dovecot imapd, as well as if you did it back then, it'd be POP3 as well. After you do that, you're going to want to make sure you check the version to see if Dovecot actually installed it. After it's installed, the main thing that you're going to want to do is, even after you install it, you're gonna want to make sure that in the config file, there's the protocols is actually defined for IMAPS, as well as IMAP if you want, if you don't mind them using that as well. To do that, you have to get into the config file. You have to run the sudo command for that. Sudo nano /dc/dovecot/dovecot.config. And that will get you in there. Dovecot can be used to deliver email messages and store, but I would not be going over that for this presentation. What I will be doing is giving 3 recommendations that can be used to harden the server while it is in use. To do this, you're gonna want to start off with one called the authentication mechanism. To do this, you're gonna want to edit the authentication config file, and to get there, you have to run sudo nano etc/dovecot/config. Then you get to .d/d auth.config. Once you're in there, then you're gonna want to turn on the authentication username format for that. And while you're in there as well, you have to find a line called auth that's mechanisms. You want to turn that to plain. And as well, you can make it even more secure by adding plain login to that line as well. This will add another form of security to that. The next one is, I would say, configuring SSL/TLS encryption. Just find the line that says SSL in the config file and make sure to change that to required. Once that's required, then they will always have to use SSL certificate to get in there. And make sure that is password protected as well, that their SSL has to have a password protection, which is in the config file as well. The last recommendation is be configuring the SASL authentication. You're going to want to change the service auth section to the following, so that Postfix can find the Dovecot authentication server. This is very syntax based, so you're going to have to do this correctly. You want to make sure that once you're in the service as auth section, that you make sure that the user is Postfix and group is Postfix as well. That way you can find the Dovecot server. And those are a few ways in which you can harden IMAPS within the Dovecot server. Next is going to be configuring DNS with our IIS server on Windows 2019. There's just a few different recommendations in which to secure this server with DNS. Just to name a few, there is to configure zone transfers to have specific IP addresses. This is a pretty big one. since the DNS is basically your domain on Route 53. This is a critical network service, and it must be protected as much as possible. So since that is the case, you're always going to make sure that you specify the different IP addresses that you want to be transferred within the zones. Making this very specific will help you out in the long run. Another one to look at is called DNS cache locking. Just a little bit about this. This is a feature that will allow you to control the information in the DNS cache so that it can be overridden. The results spawn quickly, but the results do respond quickly if it's requested the same information. The DNS server does keep information over time, and that is what is stored in the cache, and that's what you're going to want to. That's why you're going to want to make sure this is enabled. Another one is to configure DNS socket pool. The socket pool just enables the DNS server to use a source port randomization when it issues DNS queries. The reason why this is good is because whenever the DNS server starts, the server chooses a source port from the pool of sockets that are available. Instead of using a predictable source, the DNS server uses a random port number that it selects from the socket pool. The socket pool will make the cache tampering attacks more difficult because a malicious user won't be able to correctly guess the port that the query has chosen from the socket pool. It's enabled by default, but you still want to get in there and make sure that you specify all the rules that will help your server. And just to add another one in there, this one's called DNSSEC. This enables a zone and all the records in the zone to be signed cryptographically so that the computers can validate the DNS response. As DNS is often attacked all the time, this one will help protect against those threats and further secure your DNS infrastructure. Bind, or the Berkeley Internet Name Domain. This is one of the most frequently used DNS servers in Ubuntu. As I previously said, as with most applications, DNS is always attacked, and there are many different security weaknesses that have been talked about as for using the bind servers with Ubuntu. Some of the risks can be DOS, loss of integrity. Your emails can be diverted. Firewalls can be got into. So there are a few recommendations that I'd like to give to be able to secure this server so that your information remains in your DNS server and it doesn't get leaked. The first one would be to isolate your resources. I would say to use a dedicated server for the DNS and don't share it with the other ones. And also, do not allow users to log into this one. Users create errors, and minimal access to this will help out in the long run. Basically, a separation of duties. The next would be as the same with the other one on the Windows. Restrict zone transfers to a very minimal, so that can help with the different attacks. Once you restrict / not allowing different queries, that will help to not have so many different people accessing the transfers, and also you'll be able to specify who you would want to transfer from your organization. The last one I would say is to run bind with minimal privileges. This basically means create a user with non root capabilities, and make sure to run it as that user. This will help because most of the time, whenever hackers get in, they're gonna try to get in and be and disguise themselves as the most unused person or user in the company. And if you already have it running as a non-root user, and then you see somebody try to get in there running as a root user or somebody with pseudo privileges, then you know that that has been compromised. Once it's been compromised, then you'll know this by monitoring the monitoring logs to see what is going on in the environment. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the presentation.